Welcome back to the Boujee Buzz podcast. I was about to do the old tagline from like 2022, early 2022 and 2021. But this is the space where we are redefining luxury for women ready to ditch the hard life and step into their soft states of being. Got it? Good. So, I just want to preface, like, this episode, it's all about embracing your season of silence. Oh my God, we're nearing the end of the season. I can't believe it. Okay. But I know I kind of like touched on this a little bit in the very first episode, just kind of like talking about how it like was a very like isolated season and just a season of preparation and all that other stuff. But I feel like as we were going through, we ended up like there was an original like plan of content, like episodes that we had in mind, and I ended up scrapping that just because like something in my intuition, it felt off, it felt different. And so I was like, okay, after like going back to the drawing board on a few of the other episodes we had in mind, or really like half of the episodes, like half of the topics really, I replaced most of those episodes with like now having the, replacing the guests and now having my team be featured, since this was a very personal season to me and I wanted to include them in a very large way, even more than they already are. But there were still like 2 other episodes that I needed to like come up with a topic for. And this was one of them, just because it's been something that has been obviously a very big, important topic to me, just so authentic and true to like the space that I'm currently in. I'm nearing the end of it as I'm recording this. By the time that I'm, you'll see this, I'll be kind of, on the other side of it. But I think that this is really important to embrace, because I feel like a lot of people are entering the season and they're feeling bad about it. And just to like talk about the season of silence, like why it's so important to lean into that, like what comes of it, just like all that good stuff. So I'm really excited to kind of just do a little bit of a deeper dive into that specifically today. But before we do, let's go ahead and get into today's Boujee Bite. Okay, so guys, like sometimes with these Boujee Bites, like what we cover, it could be, anything from something that's going on in, Boujee Boss media world, or like just, pop culture, whatever. Sometimes it's around holidays or, but today, after doing some research, I realized that it was World Teen Mental Wellness Day. It actually is today, March 2nd, the day this episode is released. And I wanted to highlight that just because, I know like there may be a few like listeners or watchers of the podcast that are, still teenagers. I know most of my audience is like more so older, like Gen Z and like millennial women, and even some in like who are even a little older, which is like super cool. And even some men, there are men listeners as well. But I definitely wanted to speak to some of the younger women and men who may be tuning in, just because I feel like this is an important topic, teen mental wellness. I think, mental health as a whole, we've made a lot of great strides in recent years around like that conversation and acceptance of the relevancy of it, and how impactful and how widespread it is. And so just for context, before I, do my little spiel, for those that may not know, I got this from National Today. So shout out to you for providing this background context. Mental health struggles are unfortunately common in teens, making up 16% of disease and injuries in people aged 10 to 19. Mental health issues start from around 14 years of age and often go undiagnosed and untreated. Suicide and depression are some of the leading causes of death among teens and can even lead to other struggles such as substance abuse in later years. World Teen Mental Wellness Day begins and carries on very important conversations around mental health. People often fail to understand what teenagers go through, and the stigma associated with mental illness can make teens reluctant to ask for help. This day encourages open conversations and awareness to help teens around the world. Of course, especially with topics like this, we want to also help move action forward. So we'll have some like links and things where people can donate, show support, resources if you need them as well. Because I know, like, at this point, like I said, there are some older listeners, and some of my listeners may actually have teenagers. I know, like, Shanice herself, who's our creative director, she's got 2 teenagers now. And so I know that, like, even if it's not necessarily you may have a family member who you may want to, share these resources with. And just like, even if it prompts you to just have a discussion or reach out to them, this is really important. And I liked what they were saying around just how people fail to understand what teenagers go through. And sometimes it's not even that, you don't understand. Sometimes we don't. But, other times I noticed that a lot of times with teens, they're often undermined because, some of the things that may bother them, may be a little petty, especially, for a lot of us adults who have come on the other side and we're older now. A lot of the things we were worried about when we were teenagers, we aren't worried about now because, a lot of it's super petty and it's around friends that most of us don't even keep up with anymore. And just, all of those little like insecurities and things that you just don't really think twice about as an adult, right? But I think what a lot of adults fail to realize when they're undermining these teen experiences is like, okay, what it's like on the other side of that stuff, but they don't. To them, like, this is the most traumatic, this is the biggest deal that they've encountered thus far. So even if it's petty to you and what it's like on the other side, they don't. And that's why it's so important to not undermine how they feel, because like this description detailed, I mean, they're increasing so many teen suicides, so much depression. It seems like it's just touching on kids younger and younger, and a lot of that is due to just outright ignorance and neglect from adults around them. And we've got to put a stop to that because it's not cool. I know of course I would never put anyone on blast on such a public platform, but there are a lot of, I know what I went through, as a teen, and not necessarily, from my parents being undermined, but just like I definitely know what that's like to be undermined and be dismissed, right? There are so many, teens in my life, even now, family members, loved ones who are going through mental health battles. And, it really is unfortunate the way that people treat them, the way that people dismiss it, especially, I don't hate to do it because it needs to be addressed in the Black community, especially the way that a lot of us still are ignorant about mental health issues in younger people and teens is really unfortunate. It really upsets me. Like, if you're watching this or even listening, I was not expecting to like get a little emotional, but it just, there's people in my mind that I'm thinking about as I'm talking about this. And it's really important, guys. It's really important to listen to them. And it's really important to be open and to not be dismissive and to not write it off as them being dramatic or anything like that, because it's like you really don't know what that might trigger or set off in them. So like, please, as adults, it's our job to create safe spaces for these kids. And so please make sure that you're doing your part to do that, because I'm tired of seeing these mental health crises. I'm tired of seeing these kids like killing themselves because we didn't want to listen. And so, man, I was not expecting to get emotional about this, but like, please, it's so important to like talk to them. And I mean, quite frankly, sometimes some of us have already ruined that, so they may not even be in the space to want to talk to you, but do what you need to do it, get them in therapy, like do what you need to do to create a safe space for them, because this life is so precious. We're losing people younger and younger, and if you can start young with like being aware about what's going on in your mind and the things that you're dealing with and how to effectively deal with all of those like emotions and things that you're dealing with in a healthy way, and come up with proactive solutions to resolve them and to confront them, the younger the better, right? And I mean, there's still so many adults who are screwed up because of things that they didn't address in their younger years, in their childhood, in their teens. And so, yeah, ooh, it's important. Like I said, there's going to be resources. I was not expecting to get emotional, man. But yeah, um, shout out to, shout out to all the teens out there. I got your back, guys. um, so yeah, that's the Boujee Bite for today. I'm going to go wipe my face, and while I do that, let's get into a little bit of Boujee business. Shout out to the sponsor of today's episode, Kai Blends, an all-natural, for real y'all, hair care line. The CEO and lead chemist also happens to be our creative director, Shanice Thompson. The brand was inspired by the birth of a daughter, Khala May, where they experienced cradle cap and postpartum hair loss. Shanice couldn't find products to solve their hair dilemmas, and thus Kai Blends was born. Signature products include the Honey Blossom Mask, FoliGuard, Sunshine Growth Oil, and Soul Sorrel Deep Conditioner. Listen, I've been using most of these products for over a year now, and I'm telling you, as a lazy natural, they're easy to use, they smell amazing, and they work wonders for your hair. Kai Blends also assisted with the hairstyling for the video component of this season of the Boujee Buzz podcast, which honestly, bless it. Thank you so much. You can visit kaiblends.com to buy. Thanks again to Shanice and the Kai Blends team for sponsoring this episode. Now let's get back to it. Okay, so, man, I'm here. We're talking about the season of silence today. Obviously, we've already got off to an emotional start talking about World Teen Mental Wellness Day. Let's hope I don't get emotional talking about the season of silence. Because yeah, but I don't know. If I do, obviously. I think, even though it's kind of like, that moment was very rare, I'm glad that it happened. Because it just, it shows how much it really means to me. And I hope that, like, I know that, it will touch someone out there. And if it inspires you to take action, then I'm glad. That's what this podcast is all about. So yeah, I'm gonna just kind of what is it? Spitball. I think spitball about this topic. Like I said earlier in the intro, like, this was, I kind of touched on this a little in the first episode of the season premiere, when I was just talking about the emergence of Boujee Boss Media, and so to speak. And so I just kind of wanted to dial in a little bit more here. And I don't really have, like, I literally have like 4 bullets, and they're very bare bones. So to be quite honest, I don't know what life is going to take on with this topic, but I'm just kind of going to speak from the heart. Side note, like, you may hear me reference like my outlines and my notes, especially like for those of you who are watching this, you may be seeing me like look down. You can't see anything but me, but I have my Mac right in front of me, like, and I always have my outlines to just help keep me on track. But like, lately I used to have very extensive outlines before, but in a way I felt like that was hindering me, and it also became dreadful to actually outline. So like, I'm just like learning to embrace going with the flow, not having as much, like, as extensive of outlines, just because, I mean, I think you do need them, or at least I do, just to kind of like keep some sort of structure. But I just have been keeping them bare bones. And if it's like, if I ramble a little bit, at least it's like constructive rambling. And I feel like, honestly, like, doing it that way, it's more raw. It feels more authentic, even if it's not as politically correct, or if it's not as, as maybe as tight knit as I've done things before. I feel like this is way more authentic and relatable. And I mean that I've been constantly emphasizing how important and how crucial of a role that's played in this season. And honestly, I feel like even me, that little spiel I just gave is kind of a big outcome of this season of silence that I've been experiencing. So yeah, let's first get into like the fears, I think, why people run from it. Or actually, like, before we even get into that, let's first start and talk about, like, what does it look like? How can you tell when you are approaching a season of silence, or it's time to enter a season of silence? I don't have an official like definition for it. Maybe I will insert one at the time, by the time this comes around. I don't know. But to me, a season of silence is a season of isolation. It's a season of quietness. It's exactly how it sounds to me. A season where, you may be more alone than usual. You may be a little bit more reserved and introverted. It's a season of reflection, a season of clarity, a season of openness to new things. It's a season of elevation for sure. Just because, that clarity that brings about that elevation, you know what I mean? And so, well, at least it does if you take the right action with it. And so, oftentimes it's not the most attractive season to a lot of people, because it means, oftentimes there's some temporary sacrifice, whether that mean you are missing out on some things that may be enjoyable to you, maybe even like having to sacrifice, like, financially, if it requires some sort of investing that you are required, that, this season requires, or taking a big leap there. It could mean, letting go of like people who brought noise to your life, which is always super hard. It could mean a lot of things. And I mean, even those examples that I just listed, it was all of that for me, to be honest. Like, it was definitely a season of like missing out. There were so many, especially, you guys have to remember, like, I'm still in my first year of living in New York City, and there were so many events and so many amazing things going on that are literally right at the, like, they're so accessible to me. But because I was in this season, I missed out on them this go round. But honestly, I didn't even really feel bad about it. Like, I'll get to like the fears of why people avoid it in a second, because I'm getting into that. But yeah, so I mean, I definitely experienced that first example that I gave. I definitely sacrifice, and for sure in the like financial area, like, this has been expensive. Okay. I've never put as much money into something as I have into this, and I've always been pretty generous with investing in my brands, but this is like takes the cake. But quality costs. And when you're creating premium level content, and you're on a premium level mission, have a premium level purpose, then sometimes you gotta spend premium coin. Sometimes you can get around it. Sometimes it's avoidable. Because remember, guys, earlier in the season, I was talking about this in the episode around, are you ready for the opportunities you're seeking? Like I said, sometimes you can get around, like there's, more cost-effective solutions and even free solutions that you can leverage. And then sometimes, you do have to spend a coin. And in this case, I had a mix of both. Like, there were definitely cost-effective things that I was able to work around and, repurpose and get creative. But overall, I definitely, especially for me and where I'm at, it was definitely a hefty investment, but one that I'm really proud of. And then, of course, like the third example I gave around letting go of people, who may have, brought temporary fulfillment or temporary noise that, served as a good distraction. That's, letting them go. And that's been hard. And that's something I'm still trying to fully like process, if I'm being honest. But I think, I don't know, it feels weird, but it feels good. And yeah, I don't really know how to describe it, but I'm in a good space, I will say. And so, yeah, like, that's essentially, those are just high level, I think, and it looks different for different people, but usually it's just, like I said, it's not as attractive of a season, because everybody wants to be in the season where it's like, you're everywhere, you know what I mean? Like you're on the other side of the season of silence, like where you're seeing all of the results. Because the season of silence is also a season of great faith, because a lot of times, like, you don't see, you may have a desired end goal, but sometimes that's not even always clear. Or even if you do have a clear end goal, like you don't have it yet, and you're making all of these very like big investments, whether it's money, time, energy, like all of that, like you're making these very big investments into something that you don't know is going to come into fruition. And sometimes you don't even know what you want, like what's coming into fruition. Like you're just acting blindly and following your gut, following your heart. And that can be scary. And so for a lot of people, they run from this season because that fear of missing out, that FOMO, right? Not wanting to be a part, and it always seems so much more fun when you're not around for it. Like it always seems so much more enticing when you can't participate, right? Isn't that how it goes? And then like there's also the fear of just like the clarity. Like some people are scared of clarity because they know that oftentimes clarity prompts change. Clarity prompts pivots, and pivots are scary, especially for people who don't like change, especially for people who don't like the unknown, right? And those pivots sometimes may cause you to undo things that you've already done, or like that you may have like already invested in. And that could be a multitude of things, whether it's business, relationships, all of that. Like, and it can be hard. It can be hard to let go of that. So a lot of people avoid it because of those fears. And those are all fears that I had, right? But I'm so glad that I made the decision to invest in this season. Because I mean, obviously you guys are seeing the result of that, but the truth of the matter is I didn't know going into this season, like I said in the premiere, I didn't know going into this season that this would be the result. I had an idea, a very base high level idea, but like all of this, it wasn't, I didn't see it. I didn't know. Like I said, there was a lot of faith going on. And even now it's like, it's crazy. I wonder what's going to be my reality by the time this airs, right? Because I know things will have changed even more. I won't be in the season of silence anymore. I'll be in a new season. I wonder what that will look like. And that's getting into something else. But it's just, the point I'm trying to make is I didn't see this. There was so much clarity or lack thereof. But I knew I had to take this moment because, and I kind of, like I said, I touched on this kind of high level in the first episode of the season, but I keep saying season so much. I hope the first episode of the podcast season, not the metaphorical season, you know what I'm saying? But like, speaking about like leaning into the vision, and now we're kind of getting into why seasons of silence are important. Leaning into the vision that God has for you. And I talk about God here. I grew up, in the church. And so that's, always been a big force in my life. But just leaning into the vision that God has for you, and really like identifying those initial focal points, which I've kind of, and it's so crazy. I'm having a moment as I'm talking through this, like just because I'm thinking about how much this is connected to so many of the other topics in this podcast season. And I just am having a moment internally of just like, this is so ordained. Like I couldn't have, when I was choosing all these topics, I didn't choose all these topics in one sitting. It was very sporadic the way that I ideated like what I wanted to focus on in season 4 of the Boujee Buzz podcast. And even now I feel like, I feel like I'm experiencing a manifestation of the season of silence just because of the fluidity of how things are flowing. And so if you're watching this and I seem a bit like I'm having like multiple thoughts going on in my head, it's because I am. Because like as I'm talking through this, I'm like, gosh, this clicks in a way that, and it's just like a manifestation of exactly what I'm talking about, of like, this is the type of clarity, this is the type of fluidity that comes about when you listen and you embrace those moments of solitude, and when you really sit to reflect and listen for those moments of clarity and action steps that you need to take. This is the outcome of my season of silence. This is one of the outcomes, right? And so getting back into it, what I was talking about with like leaning into your vision and how important that is, clarity. People underestimate how powerful that is, because it has the power to completely redirect your life path. It has the power to completely unveil like your purpose for being here on this earth, and that's a big deal, right? Your purpose. And it's crazy that it's like, so for me, because I followed my gut and I trusted God to really lean into this season, staying far away, I have been able to uncover so much more. Like, to be able to say at 24 that I'm clear on what my purpose here is on this earth, I don't take that for granted. Because I know for some people, there's people two and three times my age who have no idea like what their purpose is. And that's not to diminish them or whatever. At the end of the day, your timing is your timing, and when God wants for you to know that, then he will reveal it to you. But I don't take it for granted that he allowed me this season early. And so I think that was part of the reason why I leaned into it, like, and I allowed myself to fall into this season of silence, is because I knew that, like, even though I didn't exactly know the nuances of everything, and quite frankly, I still don't know all the nuances, I knew that, like, this was a privilege that I was experiencing, that I was even being offered this season, because I'd experienced enough on the other end. I'd experienced enough confusion. I'd experienced enough back and forth. I experienced enough chaos to know that, like, I couldn't continue on that way that much longer. And so when this moment came, where I was like, you need to just go in reflection mode, it was hard to lean into it, but it was also, I don't know, kind of exciting, just because, like, I knew that something great was going to come out of it. And in this season, I've been learning, like, there have been so many lessons, too many to count, oh my goodness, but really learning to follow, like, trust myself, trust my gut, because one thing that this season revealed to me is just how much I depended on external validation. And it's like, obviously, external validation is needed to some degree, but every single thing, it was like every single thing I did, I was wanting to share with at least one person. I didn't know how to keep things to myself. In this season of isolation, it's like, yes, I had a team, but even then, it's like, there's a level of discipline that I have now when it comes to what I share. And it's not even necessarily because there's a lack of trust in the people around me, but it's just simply because it's not meant for them to know. It's my journey. This is an internal thing between me and God. And so there's no need for them to know right now. And honestly, I feel like a lot of it was just, quite frankly, him just trying to help me grow that muscle, and like trusting myself, trusting my gut, leaning into my intuition. Because obviously I've mentioned a lot how I used to compare myself a lot to other people, and that is no coincidence that those two are connected. And so I think a lot of that was like listening to my voice, like allowing it to take up more space in my mind. I altered the stuff I consumed. I like deleted so many like other podcasts, like people that I used to follow. I don't, stopped investing in as many other entrepreneurs and stuff. Like I stopped watching as much things. I barely have watched TV in the last 6 months. Like I literally just have, like, I blocked the Shade Room, I blocked Hollywood Unlocks, like I've just been so intentional about guarding my focus and like really just like I said, allowing my voice to take up more space in my head and really like exercising that and trusting that. I mean, you guys heard me when I was talking about earlier about how like in this experience I have been, there were initially like I was going to have like 5 external guests on this season, like 5, and I was going to do half and half, like 5 solo episodes and 5 episodes with guests. And we outlined, did all of them. And then I was just like, this just don't feel right. And then I was like, you know what, we're going to table it. And like all those guests, I still want them to come on the show at some point, but it just didn't feel right. And there were so many moments like that where it was just like I would fully flesh out things and something wouldn't feel right in my spirit, and I'd be like, we need to pivot, we need to redirect. And it's like even those little things, I've come to appreciate those little moments, because that would have taken me months to do before, maybe even years to do before, like small moments like that, because I would have went back and forth over. I would have been like, oh well, this person does it that way, or tried to ask a million different people what they think I should do. And like little moments like that is what this season of silence has taught me. That's what has helped me elevate. It's also revealed a lot to me about just like, I talk about like the stuff I consume, right? And just like the energies around me, and it's revealed a lot to me about what I need and what I don't need in terms of just things in my personal life, preferences, and just like how, like I mentioned the phrase like guarding your focus and all of that. I think I actually have an episode about that from about a year ago. But it definitely rings itself to be true, and just a lot has been revealed to me in that regard, especially with certain examples in my personal life about just the energies I allow around me and what my standards are. And it's been very eye-opening. And I also mentioned, earlier in the season how I felt like this was also a season of preparation in a way. And I really truly feel like it is, like all of those things I just talked about, like all of the skills that were sharpened, that were strengthened, that were developed in this season of silence, I feel like are all things that I will need in this season that I'm entering now, which I don't know the exact name of this season. I'll be able to have more context later on, but I know that whatever it is, it's gonna be abundant. It's funny, I said that if you go back and listen to the New Year's reflection episode from like 2021, December 2021, I said that initially I wanted 2021 to be my year of abundance, but then it ended up turning into a year of permission. And so I said, okay, well maybe 2022 will be a year of my year of abundance, right? And so now we're nearing the end of 2022. It's November 2022, and I'm just like, I did experience some abundance, a lot of abundance of creativity and all of that other stuff, right? But I feel like this season was, this year was more of a year of intentionality, right? A year of clarity, a year of alignment, right? And I feel like next year, 2023, well, the year that you're watching this, 2023, this is the abundance. This is where like I'm gonna soar to new heights, new levels, new devils, right? And so I think that like all of this has played a role in that. And so yeah, that's kind of just where I am, and that's why it's it's gonna be different for different people. Your life, your circumstances. You may have a clue on some of your goals, you may not. Maybe the season of silence will reveal what that is to you. If you, maybe it'll reveal, you may know your goals and it'll just reveal like what steps you need to take. I don't know what it is. It may apply to your business. It may apply to your love life. It may apply to your family, your friends. It may apply to all of the above. But I do know that this season is important to embrace, and I'm so glad that I listened to it. And so that's my spiel for today. But yeah, definitely when the season of silence, when it comes knocking, definitely allow it to enter, because it's gonna change everything. All right, so guys, let's get into today's Boujee Bible verse. Very, very simple. Isolation yields elevation. Don't be afraid to sit in silence, because that stillness creates a space for clarity to enter your life, and clarity creates a space for growth. Enough said. Yeah, that's that's the Boujee Bible verse. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This was way more of an emotional episode than I anticipated. I've never cried on camera or on the mic. This is, but I hope this resonated with you as always, the way that it obviously, still resonates with me. Shout out to the Boujee Bible of the week, Violet Skies by the lovely Snow Allegra. That's my girl. So yeah, check that out. I'm still like I'm in a different I'm sorry, I feel so dazed now. Wow, this was way more emotional to record than I anticipated. But yeah, shout out to Violet Skies by Snow Allegra. Stay tuned. We're going to be dropping an official playlist next week after the season finale. I cannot believe the season finale is next week. Oh my God. 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 Okay. I'm really excited about that topic, guys. It's going to be so good. Ugh. And it is so in alignment with like our mission, and it is controversial as always. What's new? But I'm excited about that. I'm so just let me know in the comments, not only what you thought about today's episode. For one, I really would love to know every facet, like, of course, the topic around season of silence, even, I know like we got up to an emotional start with the Boujee, with talking about like the importance of like mental health awareness for teens and all that. So, even your experiences there, like sound off, this is a safe space. And I want to like encourage you, so please, like, if you know of any good resources or anything like that, like share any experiences you want to share, thoughts in general, would love that, of course, as always. But yeah, one more episode before the season finale. I feel good about it. So yeah, okay. With that being said, I guess I can sign off here. I don't know. Like it's hard for me to close off because it's like there's really one more episode, but it's okay. Okay, I'm gonna get out of your way now. So, of course, as always, stay bougie, stay bossed up, and I will catch you next week for the season finale. Bye. I love you.